We will now sew the lining zipper pocket. You will need one of your lining H side pieces. You will need 2 piece L zipper pocket lining pieces. And if you are using a zipper overlay made out of vinyl or leather or cork, something that doesn't fray, then you will cut that out, and you'll make sure to cut the middle part. And you'll need your zipper, and the dimensions of that are in the pattern. First off, one of your pocket pieces, you will draw a rectangle on, and that rectangle will be 1/2 inch wide, and it will be 1.5 inches from the top and 1 inch from each side. So I'll try to do this on my machine so you can see. First, I will mark 1 inch from each side. And then I will measure 1.5 inches down, oops, right here, and then 1/2 inch down from that. Okay, and I'm not going to fill in this rectangle, but I'll just stitch across from each piece or each mark to each mark. The piece and side paper piece has corner marks that you can follow, or you can just put it down 1/2 inch from the top and center it. Okay. Okay, so I usually start stitching right in the middle of one of the long lines. And as I approach the corner, I am going to decrease my stitches gradually from 2.5 length to 1.0 length. So as I get to about here, you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm pressing the buttons to decrease the stitch length gradually. So now I'm at 1. And then as I start going along this long line here, stitch line, I go back to 2.5, and then back to 1. I'll use my seam ripper to start ripping along here, and then I'm going to switch to my shears. These are my sharpest scissors with the sharpest tip, so I use these to cut down the center, and as I reach the end, I cut up to this corner, and I get close to the stitching, but I don't cut through it. And I do that with all 4 corners. Then I'm going to push my fabric through. You notice no puckers, especially if this is pressed. And I'm going to finger press it for now, but you can use your iron to give it a nice crisp press. If you're not using the overlay, you'll go ahead and put the zipper under here and start stitching the zipper on, but I'm doing an overlay. So I like to make sure that it's the right width, and it is. And I hold the overlay in place. Sometimes I clip it in a few places to keep it from moving. You can also use double-sided tape, painter's tape, anything like that that will hold it on. I often just hold it and eyeball it, but if I do that while recording, I know I'll flub it, so I'm just doing a little bit extra. And I will increase my stitch length. And I'm going to edge stitch this vinyl. Now I grab my zipper and I place it underneath, right in the center. You can use double-sided tape to hold it in place, or I generally just hold it in place. I stitch all around the outside. My vinyl is trying to pucker here, so I'm just going to help push it under at the rate I want it to be going under, so it doesn't get pushed forward. I sew carefully over the coils. This is my point turner and seam creaser, and I use it for an awful lot of things besides just turning points. Okay, I'm going to actually unzip this zipper to get that zipper pull out of the way. I'm going to take my other zipper lining and match it up to the other piece. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is the way that we'll be turning this purse at the end is through the top seam. Right here, this top seam. Now, if you don't want to do it that way, you can always turn it through this interior pocket. So if you did that, you would leave this bottom edge open and just sew around the 3 edges. But I am fine with turning it through the top edge of the seam, so I'm just going to sew all the way around this zipper pocket. And since this is on the inside, I generally don't pin it. I just start sewing. So right here, I'll pull it away to make sure that I don't stitch on the lining. You'll notice I'm kind of sewing at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and that's just because on the sides I can't sew at the normal seam allowance. Because I don't want to run into the overlay, makes the zipper take up more space. And then this fabric generally pulls down a little bit. It doesn't go all the way to the top, and that's fine. I just pull it up as far as I can go, and sew. And I will cut off this extra zipper coil. And now we are done with this pocket and the other pocket, and we are ready to sew the sides to the gusset.